Welcome to Here to Be Human, a multi-dimensional soul. This is not just a podcast, it's a remembering. A space where soul meets skin and the sacred meets the messy. Where spirit is not something you escape into, it's something you embody here in this beautiful, chaotic, breathtaking human life. Each episode is a living transmission, a weaving of energy, truth, reflection, and remembrance, with questions for your soul, messages from beyond, and invitations to meet yourself in ways you've never dared to before. Whether you're walking through shadow or starlight, you belong here. I am Julie, your guide, your mirror, your voice in the void. This is Here to Be Human, and you are right on time. You don't need to be chosen. You already are. This is Here to Be Human, a multidimensional soul, Season 2, Episode 8, Power and Permission. You are you when you stop asking to be chosen. So before you start into all our teachings and our channel messages, I want you to ask yourself here the first prompt to reflect on. Where in your life are you still waiting for someone to give you permission to be who you already are? And just pause and just let your body feel what is stirring beneath that truth for you. Where in your life are you still waiting for someone to give you permission to be who you already are? Now, we're going to move into our first segment, which is the addiction to being chosen. Now, we all grew up, most of us, I shouldn't say all, say majority of us grew up waiting to be picked, whether it's, picked from in primary school. I know here we do primary school. That's what we call junior school. Picked to be on the softball team, or picked to be, to play with the cool kids or whatever. To be picked, yeah. To be seen. When you're kind of like sitting in the classroom and your hands all the way up to the sky and you feel like the teacher can't see you, but all you want is to be seen, to be loved. As a child, definitely comes from our parents. We want that love from them. We want that level of acceptance from them. And the older we get, we want to be loved in general by the people that we love back, and to be enough. Whatever that word actually means, I think that's just I think we are all enough in the moment that we are. I think the measurement of what is enough cannot be measured. And so by thinking that you're not enough, or how can I be enough, it doesn't exist, because it's not something that can actually be measured. And you need to feel whole within yourself to go, I am enough in this moment as I am. And that's enough. And if someone wants to measure you and give you like a linear aspect of, well, if you do this, then you're enough for me, well, then sayonara, bitches, is what I would say to that. But anyway, deterring from a little bit of the topic here. But anyway, that waiting that we have been programmed from a young age, which we still to this day, as we get older, we want to be picked, we want to be seen, we want to be loved, we want to be this elusive word of being enough, being perfect, whatever it is, right? So all that stuff has wired our nervous system to pretty much loop this cycle of proving and performing. Which is why when you're not yourself, when you don't articulate your needs, when you let other people's voices or opinions into what it is that you're trying to work out, you end up performing for them. So that way they think that you're going to do what they say they want you to do, or that, yes, 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 I believe in you kind of thing, I agree with you. Or you're just consistently trying to prove yourself to someone else or to a situation, that type of thing. And that's what this kind of waiting that we grew up with, that we all grew up with, has kind of created for ourselves. So when we shape ourselves around others' comfort zones, forgetting that validation is not the same as value, then what ends up happening is our authenticity, and I use that word loosely, right? Because being your authentic self just really means just be you, right? In all of your ups and your downs and whatever, like whatever it is, that's you. And I think the word authenticity has been overused, but anyway, I used it here. Note to self. And I need to check myself in overusing some of these words that I keep saying, like, I don't like the words. But anyway, as I progress along this topic, because the moment you try and be something that you're not, then it's just going to make you seek more of that validation. Seek more of like, well, how do I become like this other version of myself, because that's what they're going to like. And it's like, well, but do you like that? Like, are you really that person? Because that's definitely not the same as value. When someone values you, when number one, you value yourself and someone else actually values you, it's because they see who you are or the parts that you're allowing, them to see. And they like that. They value that, your what you're bringing to the table. They feel grateful that you're part of their life. That's what it means to value someone and to feel valued by someone. So the moment that you stop waiting around to be chosen, then you start to meet the power that's always been yours. You have the power to make moves, to make decisions, to shift the trajectory of your life. When you stop waiting for others to give you the green light, to be chosen, to, if you're waiting for them to validate you, or like if you can let all that go and just march to the beat of your own drum, you'll find that you're going to magnetize the right people to you. And also you're going to be pulled to the right people as well. And that's what it means to stop waiting to be chosen. And there's a big fallacy out there. And this chosen thing really has been more into relationships. So when you're younger, it's more about the relationship you have with parents and say friends. When you're a little bit older, and it's more about being chosen for like a job or a career, or you kind of set yourself up in that way, and then it becomes being chosen by somebody else. Like, oh, did they like me? Am I going to marry that person? And so again, that's all things that we've seen in the movies, things that like society talks about, and it's almost like the moment, if all you're doing is waiting to be chosen, chances are when you get chosen, that's a dopamine hit. And then all of a sudden you're going to be searching for the next dopamine hit. It'll be, what else can I be doing so then I feel like I'm chosen? Which is why like people who love like those competitions and all that type of stuff, they thrive on not being chosen, but they thrive on competition to be seen as the best in their craft. That's different to being chosen, because they're not being chosen. They're actually performing, they're choosing themselves and performing something that they love. And if they happen to win whatever the rules and regularities are, like, if you're the fastest to cross this line, if you're the one who's done the most push-ups and whatever that competition is, or you spelled the most words correctly, right? That's not you being chosen. That's you choosing yourself and doing something that you love, and you're being rewarded if you're in that competitive space. But that's what I mean by you have the power. Those people have the power. They're activating the power that's already within them to go after the things that they love. And if you can focus more on going after the things that you love rather than someone in your life choosing you or not, you'll find that by just living your truth and being you, that if that person that you were waiting for to choose you, chances are if you're vibing on the same frequency, the fact that you're living your best life over here, that's going to magnetize them to you. And then you can decide whether or not they bring any value to you, because you know that you bring value to the people in your world and that you'll be bringing value to them. This is why if we can move away from all of these, not necessarily dating apps and things like that. I mean, everything has a place in moderation, but this excessiveness of transactional relationships, again, friends, romance, whatever, if we can move away from the transactional aspect and allow ourselves to choose based on what we are requiring from the other person because we know what we're bringing to the table, then chances are you're going to meet like-minded people because your energy and your frequency are vibrating on the same page. But again, it's never about waiting to be chosen, right? Because you already chosen. You're here. You're doing something with your life. You're living. You've already been chosen. Whether you say the universe chose you to live a human experience, your soul tribe on the other side of the world, I'm not sure to say world, the universe chose you to come and have this earthly experience. You were already chosen. You just have to access the power that's already within you. So here's a personal story prompt for your diary, your journal. I want you to see where from your own experience, have you had moments where you kept waiting for someone to say that they were ready until you realize that no one could actually authorize your becoming but you. And I've seen this a lot in the work that I do with people either waiting for like promotion from work, whether they're waiting for their partner to be ready to have a baby or to get married or to move in together and all that type of stuff. Because what you will find is if you're waiting for the other person to say they're ready, then it's like the becoming of you stops. It's like you're allowing someone else to authorize your life. So if you're ready to do something and someone else isn't, then first of all, see if there's a compromise. See if there can be a balance, a give and take. But if it's all one-sided, then I think that's your answer, that maybe that person will never be ready. Maybe you're waiting for them to choose you, and they may never choose you. That's not to say they wouldn't get married and have kids, but they're choosing themselves first, and it's got nothing to do with how they feel about you. They are choosing themselves first and not allowing their choice to incorporate you. That's what it means when someone says, only if they're saying, I'm not ready, and it's been like this for a long time, and they're not willing to compromise, it's all on their terms. You will forever be waiting for this person to choose you. Because once the first thing comes, again, it'll be on their terms. Then the next thing comes that you want to be chosen, and it's on their terms. And again, this isn't all about like love, relationship. This is like friendships. How many friendships have you had along the way where everything is on their terms, never on your terms? And then eventually you're just like, what the hell am I doing here? Like, this isn't a friendship. And then the other person is like baffled why you don't want to stay connected with them because you've been doing this for so long. And they just thought that, that's what you want to do. If they are, very selfish and self-absorbed, that's kind of how they'll think. But if they're a little bit more understanding, if they're very aware of their actions, it just means that they know that they're hurting you. Both are definitely not advisable to be around if that's kind of where it's coming from. So again, ask yourself, where have you had moments where you kept waiting for someone to say that they were ready? And then that literally that paused your becoming. Big hitting question there. I think we all have, I know I have definitely waited around. And it you know what? It eats at your soul. It really does. It starts to kind of derail your plans. It can make you feel flat, and you can still be going after the things that you're wanting to go after in other areas of your life. But then you always feel like a piece is missing because you're waiting for someone who will never, ever be ready. If only if they are very self-centered, it's all about them, and the timing can only work for them. That's different. If someone is willing to compromise, and you both agree, and then when a time comes, both parties are like, yep, this is what we agreed on, let's do it. We might both be scared, but we're gonna like take a leap of faith and off we go. That's a whole different ballgame. That's someone that wants to put your needs first, but is also very mindful of the capacity that they have for what it is that you're putting forward, and then just arriving at a mutual respective time frame that actually works for the both of you. Okay, so now moving on to our channeled questions. So again, feel free to channel along with me or pause and then see if the messages overlap or it just builds a bigger story from looking at it from different angles. Okay, so our first question is, what happens when we stop waiting for others to name our worth? Ooh, that's a good one. What happens when we stop waiting for others to name our worth? The first thing that happens is you actually start to really understand what it is that you bring to the table. 100% hands down. And I know this because I've lived this experience. And when that actually happens, when you start to know your worth, the universe begins to then bring certain situations, opportunities, and ways for you to work on aspects of yourself or projects and things like that that start to feel a lot more easier, that there's a better flow for you. So your world starts to flow more. It feels like all of a sudden, ideas or goals that you once had that you thought, oh no, I can't go after that, like it's never going to happen. It's like you start to see the possibility of big things starting to shift and happen for you. Because if we wait for others to name our worth, no one really knows what you have to offer and what your worth is except you. And if someone says this is all you're worth, then, and you believe them, then it limits your experience here. And it limits your potentiality. But when you move away from waiting for them, this is not about like moving people out of your life. Again, it's just stop waiting for other people to tell you that you're amazing and this is what you bring to the table and da da da. When you know all the stuff that you bring to the table, when you know what your worth is, you start to go after more things. You start to want to experience different aspects of yourself that maybe you've always loved, but you've hidden. So when you stop waiting for others to name your worth, you start going after bigger aspects, goals, visions, dreams that you thought were impossible. Not because someone said they were impossible, but because the old you thought they were because you were waiting for someone to tell you that you're good enough. Where now you go like, I am. This is awesome. I'm going after my dreams. And then more doors open up and other avenues that you didn't even think of start to come through for you. And they bring you a lot of fulfillment. And this is where we can start to change the direction of our life to feel more fulfilled, to be more abundant, to become more magnetic in the world, so we attract the things that we truly want for ourselves. That's what happens when we stop waiting for others to tell us what we're worth. So our second prompt here to spirit is, how does the soul reclaim the energy it once gave away for approval? How does the soul reclaim the energy it once gave away for approval? All the parts of you. So, and it's not just the part in that moment. You'll start to find what happens is the soul starts to bring back aspects of you, when you were a child that you kind of gave away. So what, like when we have traumatic experiences, it's like the soul, think of the soul as this beautiful, amazing ball of light. And when traumatic experiences happen, or we get triggered, parts of that light dim out and like that little fracture gets sent out into the ether. Think of like that, those parts of your soul hiding somewhere in the universe that cannot be seen. No one can access them anymore. They're not going to hurt us anymore, right? So what starts to happen is when you start to reclaim the energy, right? All those parts of you start to come back, and you might remember those traumatic experiences. And if it was something that you hadn't dealt with, you'll start to feel that you have this power and this energy to deal with the things that you've put to the side, whether it's trauma, whether it's lack of belief, whether it is not going after certain goals. All those, that negative self-talk, the fear, the doubt, the insecurities, the soul begins to build itself back up again. And all of a sudden, like that ball of energy becomes stronger because the light is switching back on. And as that light switches back on, you're working on aspects of the self that you feel strong enough that you can deal with. You can kind of clear it out. You can shift your perspective. You can rewire old patterns. You start to work with the right people. You start to bring in the right opportunities. That's how the soul reclaims the energy that it gave away once for approval. And a lot of the times, even though some of those traumatic experiences that you had nothing to do with you being like, you feeling like you're validated, but what ends up happening is you start to look at all those experiences, whether traumatic or otherwise. You start to look at all those experiences, and you can see, one, either you're ready to deal with it. Two, you can see maybe where you were looking for validation in some of those experiences. And that kind of then rejigs your memory to be like, well, I don't want to do that anymore. So it's kind of like it's showing you where you may have done it. And sometimes when the picture is a lot more clearer for us to be like, see, when this happens, that's you trying to look for validation. The moment you kind of hear those words, the moment you see it for yourself, chances are you're going to be able to pick it up more quickly if you go to do it again. And it's that acknowledgement that there's a part of you that might still require that as you're working through all of this stuff. But that's literally how the soul begins to reclaim its energy. It's a process. There's layers to it. But once you see everything, it's like nothing is hidden from you anymore. You're not hiding from yourself, and things are not being hidden from you. And you start to feel more empowered and can start to actually go after, again, which seems to be the theme running through this episode, is you start to go after the things that you really truly want, because no one's holding you back. And technically no one is. It's ourselves that feel, and it's old programming that feel that we need someone else to say, yes, you can, and then we can do it. This is about, we're removing the middleman from our tick of approval scenario when it comes to what it is that truly is in our heart's desires to go after. It's now then becomes you and the divine. That's all there is. There's no middle person telling you you can, you can't, you do this, do it. No, it's just you and it, them, they, however you see the divine itself. So here is your journal prompt. I want you to ask yourself, what truth inside you has been waiting for permission to speak? What truth inside you has been waiting for permission to speak? So ponder on that for a moment. Okay, so as we move into our second segment, reclaiming inner authority. So what if you stopped asking for permission? Permission to rest, to create, to lead, to change? Remember that sovereignty isn't defiance, it's alignment. It's the moment you realize that your inner voice is not the audition, it's the authority. And that you are your own oracle and you are your own permission slip. Because a lot of the times we can be our own worst enemy, especially when we're needing to rest, when we're needing to allow change to take place, or if we're wanting to create something because someone's told us, oh, well, no, you're not creative, you can't do that. The amount of times I have seen when I'm in a session with someone, just the artist in an individual, that creativity within them. And it's not until we unravel that they go like, oh, wow, like I didn't really think I was creative because everyone said I was better at doing, as a child, I should be a lawyer or I should be doing this. And it's like everyone is creative. Some people are uber creative and that becomes, their profession. But we are all creative in some way, shape, or form. It's just how we're wanting to express that creativity. And I think when we've been told that we have none, then it's really hard to allow ourselves to be creative or feel that we're entitled to be a bit creative with something. And especially this whole rest thing. A lot of the times we are looking for permission for someone to say like, oh, honey, just kind of like rest. You've been doing so much. You've been on your feet. You've been doing da 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 da. And it's like that permission goes, oh yeah, maybe I should. After a little bit of like toing and froing that, oh no, I'm too busy. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm just going to like lay down, have a nap, or I'm going to go get a massage. You don't need, and it's not about you. And I don't think it's because the other person thinks they have to give you permission to rest. I think it's just you're waiting for someone to say like, hey, I think you're overdoing it. So by you reclaiming your own inner authority, you are going to listen to when the body says, hey, you need to calm your farm here. You need to take some time off, or you're going to go into burnout, or you're going to make yourself sick. That's about reclaiming your inner authority. It's not always about I'm going to speak my truth and I'm connected, and no, it's not. Sometimes it's that, and sometimes it's about really trusting your intuition to actually, one, help keep you alive, and two, go after your dreams and live a fulfilled life as much as humanly possible. So here is your personal story prompt, right? So I want you to write down from your memory, where have you had seasons where you dimmed your truth just to be accepted? And every time you did that, could you feel that your power left the room? So where have you had seasons where you have dimmed your truth just to be accepted? And every time you did it, you could feel your power leaving the room. And again, you can always come back to this in a couple of months' time and see if your answer has changed, or if you feel that something has shifted within you. And now you can ask yourself like, since I've stopped doing that, I'm feeling, XYZ. So it's always good to come back to these personal story prompts, like from your memory, from your experience, that type of stuff, or just the journal prompts that we're going through, like in these episodes, because it's going to show you where growth has occurred or possibly where growth needs to happen. Either or, I think it's a win-win. So let's kind of move on to our next journaling prompts here so we can try and understand a little bit more about embodied authority. So our first prompt is, what does inner authority feel like in the body? Ooh, what does inner authority feel like in the body? It feels like a sense of peace to start with. There's almost like a level of calmness that has come over you. Like, when you get that feeling where something just washes over you and you feel like, oh, I feel really calm, feel really at peace. That's you in your inner authority. So that's the first thing that happens. And when that calmness sets in, the nervous system starts to calm down as well. It's almost like, oh, I don't need to be on this like merry-go-round anymore. I'm just going to like pause for a moment. And so you have the peace, then there's a sense of like pause. And then what ends up ramping up after that is this kind of like this fire in your belly energy, this kind of like momentum, this drive to go and do something, whether it's to listen to music, whether it's to catch up with a friend, whether it's to build a, creative project or start a business, whatever it is. When the inner authority kicks in, like when you allow your inner authority to actually have space in your life, there is this sense of accomplishment, peace, calmness, but like a drive that you haven't actually seen before. That's how it's coming through. Okay. Now, how do we recognize when we're leading from truth instead of fear? So, how do we recognize when we're leading from truth instead of fear? Interesting. When we're leading from truth, one of the ways to recognize it is you may feel like you might feel a little bit nervous to start with, but the nervousness isn't necessarily fear-based nerves. It's kind of like it's like, obviously, you want your truth to land, right? We always want our truth to land. We don't want our truth to ever hurt anybody. So you kind of get a little bit of that to start with. You kind of like feel this like, okay, I really feel like everyone's going to get what I'm about to say. And then as you're leading through that truth, you have this almost like an out of body experience where it's like you can see yourself speaking and you can see how the other people are receiving you. And you can see that it's all meshing really well and that no one is feeling like it's negative. You can feel the energy in the room and you can start to actually feel that you are being seen because you're leading from truth instead of sitting back, being fearful, scared to kind of like really share your opinions or what your belief system is. Because when you kind of come from that place, your body will kind of like go inwards and you'll just like necessarily not want to say too much. Your voice may be a little bit shaky or it might be on a lower octave. But when you're leading with truth, it's like, think of like the lion, right? It's like your chest expands, like you're sitting up, you're standing up straight. You do have this almost like out of body experience because the energy is so magnetic, your frequency is on such a high, and that's why other people respond well to you. It's like when we watch like an amazing movie or we're at a show, like, someone like our favorite artist is like performing. You can't help but just kind of get this vibe from how they are just living their truth. They're speaking their truth, they're living their truth, and it inspires you. That's what you do in the everyday life. If you just lead from truth, you will inspire other people and you will feel it and you'll see it in their eyes. like, because you can't hide how you feel. People may not say how they feel, but the face can tell a million stories, more so than the mouth can speak what the truth is. So always lead from truth. You'd be surprised how much that you could inspire others, how much you could shift others just by speaking your truth. So your journal prompt here is, where are you still seeking permission, and what would change if you gave it to yourself today? So where are you still seeking permission, and what would change if you gave it to yourself today? So as we're moving into segment 3, this is sovereignty as sacred embodiment. So this isn't about ego, it's about embodiment. So sovereignty is quiet power. It's presence without apology. It's the moment you stop performing and start belonging to yourself. And when you stop asking to be chosen, you remember that you are the chooser. You get to choose every aspect of your life. You get to choose how you're going to start your day. You get to choose how you want to feel. You get to choose how someone else affects you. Sometimes we're being programmed to think that we have no choice, but we have a lot of choice over a lot of aspects of ourselves. We may not have a choice when it's more like global or rules and regulations. There's stuff that are put in place to protect us to some extent. I'm not saying everything, but you know what I mean. But you have so much choice about who you are, how you want to be, how you want to show up, who has access to you, and what goals, dreams, and reality you want to bring into your life in the now. So here is your personal story prompt from your experience. Where have you had times when you realized that your peace came the moment that you stopped trying to earn a seat at someone else's table? So from your own experience, where have you had times when you realized that your peace came the moment that you stopped trying to earn a seat at someone else's table? And a lot of the times we're told, oh, you'd be lucky if you had a seat at that table. So like an old programming, not necessarily, people may not necessarily say those words, but do you know what I mean? Like, oh, you should be so lucky if you got chosen to be friends with. No. Your table is just as awesome as anyone else's table. So stop trying to earn a seat on someone else's. When you have a fully fledged, working, functional table yourself, you get to choose how many seats are available at your table. Now, let's go into our last channeling prompt to spirit before we move into the integration. So, how does the soul walk freely when it no longer needs validation to move? How does the soul walk freely when it no longer needs validation to move? You'll find that the soul, the way it does this, when it does need that validation, what ends up happening is you start to actually go after big things. So, for example, if you were needing validation to buy your own home, to travel, to take a year of school and to travel, to leave your job and relocate to a different state or country, what ends up happening if you've been waiting a long time for movement, right? And it doesn't, but the thing is, like, these big things have always been there, but if you're also waiting for the validation on the little things, what ends up happening is when the soul feels like, oh, I'm really not waiting for permission from anyone, I'm not looking for validation from anyone, I'm just going to do me. This is where people, because the soul has been so suppressed, It's like they do the big things first before they do the little things. So, how many times have you seen people in your life or heard stories where, for example, someone left a very toxic relationship and the next minute they bought a house, they bought a car, they moved across the city, or they moved overseas and they started their own business? And it's kind of like the big things start to happen because it's the big things that we've been suppressing along with all the little things. Then the little things start to come together. And the little things might be, oh, I feel so free that I can sit and watch this movie. I feel free that I can actually order the food that I like. And you'll know what I mean if you have been in something very toxic or very controlling. It doesn't have to be relationships romantically. It could be with family. It could be with friends. It could be even being like working for an organization that just doesn't let you breathe, just doesn't let you have an opinion. It's very robotic. So when you move away from all of that, it actually feels scary but freeing at the same time when you can actually do the things that you want. Like I remember I dated someone who had to have the spoons a particular way in the top drawer. Now, clearly, great, no problem, whatever, each their own. But it would be a big drama if I accidentally didn't put it down gently, if I didn't match things up. I'm all for, people, you do you, boo. It's kind of where I'm at. But if then what you want is directly affecting someone negatively, that they tend to shrink a little bit, that's kind of what I'm talking about. And you might have someone like that in your life that you're not in a relationship with, but they're just eating at your soul. And you don't see it until someone actually points it out to you. Or you see it in someone else and you're like going, what the fuck? Like, that's what's happening to me. So what happens is the small things irritate you, the big things have been suppressed. Then the moment the small thing that you've let build up over time is the thing that makes you go, okay, I'm gonna be free now. I need to leave this situation, or I need to quit this job. You find people who do those things if they've been suppressed for so long, or even if they've been suppressing themselves and allowing people around them to navigate their life or tell them that they need validation before they can do anything. All of a sudden, big things shift for them. Big opportunities come into play. And then they work on the little things that ate away at their soul. And so, yes, the soul walks freely, but in order for the soul to completely walk freely, it also has to do the work on itself to release any hidden fears, insecurities, doubts, experiences in order for the human mind, the inner self, to then have more discernment in the future, but then can also catch themselves if they're finding themselves in a very similar situation or they're going down the same path. That's how the soul will walk freely. Now, your journal prompt here is what becomes possible when you stop asking to be chosen and start choosing yourself again and again. What becomes possible when you stop asking to be chosen and start choosing yourself again and again. So here is your integration ritual. This is called I no longer ask for permission to be myself. So I want you to sit tall and place both hands over your heart for me. Close your eyes, take a deep breath in. And on the exhale, I want you to think in your mind or say in your mind or say it out loud. Repeat after me. I choose myself. I no longer need to be chosen to be worthy. I honor my truth, even when it's inconvenient. I give myself permission to evolve. I am whole. I am sovereign. I am enough. And just breathe for me. Let the words drop into your body. Allow them to be keys unlocking something ancient within you. And while you're in this space, ask yourself, where in your life will you stop waiting and start choosing? And remember, you are not here to be chosen. You are here to remember, because you already are the chosen one. Our next episode, The Shadow is a Teacher, meeting the parts you've tried to transcend. So until then, please stand tall, choose yourself, and walk as a sovereign soul you've always been. Thank you for being here fully. If today's episode stirred something in you, if you have a follow-up question, a reflection you'd like to share, or a way this conversation aligned with where you are right now, I'd love to hear from you. And if there are specific questions you'd like me to ask Spirit in future episodes based on what's coming up for you, send me a direct message at here.to.be.human.podcast on the Instagram page. Remember, your voice, your questions, your presence, they're part of this journey too. And if you'd like to connect with me more deeply, you'll find everything, sessions, programs, and updates over at www.moderndayMedium.com.au or on my Instagram page, which is at modern.day.medium. This is your invitation. This is the return. And this is what it means to be human. So until next time, stay with yourself, stay with your soul, and keep choosing this sacred, messy, and miraculous life.